Hey there, Holly Show listeners. Aaron Nabus here, and on behalf of my co-host, Alex Benedicto, I just want to thank you so much for being a listener. I know times are crazy right now because of the pandemic, and it means the world to us that you would take the time to listen to our podcast. For episode 96, we showcase another interview that was done before the pandemic with one of our favorite people to visit at comic conventions, Lord Mesa. His lines are always busy, and it's no surprise since his unique take on characters from various pop culture properties from DC and Marvel Comics, as well as popular CW shows like The Flash, Green Arrow, Supergirl and Supernatural, are always con favorites. We last had him on episode 54, which was a quick interview at WonderCon 2018. I'm happy we got a chance to have a longer chat with him on this episode on a wide range of topics like the importance of not only having top-notch illustration skills, but having a high level of customer service, what Jedi he would want to be a padawan to, the significance of being a Filipino-American creator, his love for Hawaiian pizzas, what podcasts he enjoys listening to when he's walking his dog, what kind of music he listens to when he's drawing, that he eventually wants to create his own original properties, and so much more. Enjoy. Hey there, Holly Show listeners. Aaron Nabus here, and I'm happy to welcome back to the show someone who has been on the show before, back in episode 54. It was a quick interview at, I think it was WonderCon back in 2018. Proud to welcome back illustrator and popular Comic-Con exhibitor, Lord Mesa. Welcome back, Lord.
Hey guys, how's it going?
Pretty good. And I'm also joined by my co-host, Alex Benedicto. What's up, Alex?
Hey, how's everything?
Good, man. Usually at the start of the podcast, we usually like to do an origin story, but we covered that the first time around. But I'll sort of touch on your childhood just a little bit with this first question. If you could tell your 15-year-old self one thing, what would it be?
15, 1-5?
Yep.
Let's see, sophomore self, I would tell him to just keep drawing, that it's going to be more than just a fun thing, or it's always going to be fun, but the more I do it, or the more you do it, the more you'll see an improvement, and you never know where it'll lead to.
Definitely, and that sort of segues into my next question. It's besides being fun, I mean, what's your why for being an artist? Why are you passionate about creating art?
It's always been something that I've always felt that it's like the one thing that you're good at. Like if there are things that there are things that I'm sure people do, like you have a job and that's what you do to survive and to put food on the table and everything, and then there are things that maybe that you do that are your things that you're passionate about, that bring joy to your life, that may not necessarily be your job. I feel like in my case that I'm extremely lucky that both just happen to overlap with one another, and that I feel very fortunate that not a lot of people maybe can say the same thing. So it's when I'm doing it, there's a smile on my face. When I'm sharing with people, that smile's still there, and I'm very honored that there are people out there that feel the same way, that I'm able to connect with them, and we have that moment of camaraderie, and that, like, hey, we both really like, we are fans of the same thing, and we're able to connect over the artwork.
What's a typical day like for you? I mean, when was like? Well, before we get to that, when was the last time you actually worked for somebody else?
The last
Like
day job type.
yeah, like a 9 to 5 job.
Yeah, a 9 to 5 job. It was back in the end of 2016, like November, October actually, the October of 2016. I was working at a toy company, and the group that I was working with, or I was associated with, the product or the line that we were working on, they decided not to move forward and make that the type of toy. So my group was let go.
Mm-hmm.
So was laid off. So ever since then. But at the same time, though, I was also doing conventions and drawing and doing freelance art on the side, freelance illustration. So it wasn't exactly once I was let go that all of a sudden I was like, whoa, what am I going to do now? I was actually that weekend I was let go. That day I was like, oh, it was right before LA Comic Con of 2016. So,
Mm-hmm.
you know, my initial plan was, well, I can't take a day off work. So, even though despite the fact that it was a 3-day show, I was like, I'll just do Saturday and Sunday. And, I was like going to Thursdays. So I was like, oh, I guess I can do 3 days, and then I had to scramble to get everything ready. So, now what am I going to do? It's just kind of, I rolled out of one thing and rolled into another. And I've been, again, very lucky that cyclically I've been able to go from freelance work to when that starts to quiet down, then I'll have an online sale, and when that passes and I've shipped out everything, then a convention will roll in, so I've got to prepare for that. So I've been very lucky that it's just one has led into the other, and then between that, certain projects come up for certain people that that maybe don't relate to any of those areas, but it still works. So
Mm-hmm.
it's been good. It's been very good. I'm really happy and very thankful for all the people that have given me work, and for all the people that continue to buy my work when I have sales.
Now, currently, are you actively looking for freelance work, or are actively looking for you?
It's a little bit of both. I'm always on the lookout for any new projects to work on, and at the same time, as a freelance artist, part of the job, or part of what happens when you do freelance work, is you establish relationships with companies or with people, and if their experience working with you is a good one and a positive one, then they tend to call you up when more work is available, and they need someone to get it done. So, you know, I had in my previous job, I had a lot of coworkers who ended up leaving themselves, going to different companies, and they think of me when there's work to be done. Sometimes that their own groups can't accommodate because of scheduling, because of like people aren't available. So they'll reach out to me and they'll be like, hey, we got some work. Can you get it done for us? And I'm like, usually I'm pretty wide open when they call. So I get work there, and then there is times where I'll be like looking out for things, or when I'm at a convention, people will, you make contacts with people because they see your art firsthand or in person, and they're able to talk to you and kind of get a feel of your personality and if they can work with you, and usually that's the other way I can get work too.
Mm-hmm. I think in our last interview, you gave some good advice about. You just alluded to it about engaging people at conventions, and the importance of establishing a connection.
Yeah.
Sort of like because when we talked about this last time about how I see a lot of artists out there who, I mean, their art is amazing, but they have trouble selling their artwork. And you gave us some good advice about establishing that connection. It's you sort of treated it like you're talking to your friends.
Yeah. Oh yeah. There's that's the thing that I feel that kind of helps people make the decision whether or not they want to buy your artwork in a way. Like the appeal of your artwork is definitely a major factor in whether someone buys your artwork. But at the same time, you know, if you start talking to the fans and they really can tell or get a sense that you're a genuinely nice person, that you're passionate about the shows or the subject matter that you're drawing, which is obviously something that they're passionate about too. It just helps them feel like, okay, not only am I buying some artwork that I really like, but I'm also supporting someone that I think is a good person, and I want to make sure that they can continue making artwork that I appreciate. So it's a very kind of it's like a big picture type transaction, or connection that
Sure.
that helps people kind of just feel better about what they're doing, and when you're in an artist alley, that's a place where you're just like people like attendees, they're bombarded. There's just something to look at around every corner, and there's a lot of amazing artwork that if you could, I'm sure if they could buy it all, or if they could buy everything that appeals to them, then they would, but they can't. So then at that point there's got to be certain factors that have to make certain people want to buy some artwork over someone else's, and definitely connection with the creator is something
Hmm.
that plays a part.
Yeah, definitely. Even in the design industry, I'm a graphic designer by trade, as I'm sure our audience knows. And one thing that I also I always keep in the back of my mind is that sure, your portfolio will probably get you that initial phone call, but it's that level high level of customer service that'll keep them that'll encourage them to keep on calling you back.
Oh yeah, because things are stressful enough as it is, with outside factors, that you don't want to have the experience of working with someone who is working remotely, that you're not there in person to talk to. You want to make sure that you can count on that person, and that
Mm,
relationship that with that person is going to be a positive one, or else it's just like, why bother? Why would you want to? It's like, why would I want to go get all my teeth yanked out? Yeah, just if, you want it to be as pleasant as possible.
right. So, what's a typical day like for you? I mean, you're a totally independent creator now. I mean, there's I'm sure that that amount of freedom is liberating, but at the same time, it can be scary because I mean, there's
Yes,
so many ways a day can go for you.
yes. The instability is generally the part that I think is the most scariest aspect of being a freelancer. Is well, I don't have work right now, and so usual day for me is get up and you know um, as my wife's getting ready to head off to her job, you know um, I, I take care of my dogs, I feed them, and then walk them, get them all squared away, and then usually by the time that wraps up, my wife's already head off to work. So I'll, if I've got work to do, I just kind of check emails and kind of go over any notes anyone's given me, and just start drawing, and that usually carries me through to uh, the afternoon. Uh, I have a dog she's a elderly dog, so she has medication. So my schedule tends to revolve around her pill dosages, or when they're given to her. So 3 o'clock is usually when I give her middle of the day pill, and when I start to kind of like wind down any, because then I usually, since I work from home, I also cook dinner and everything. So, I try to squeeze a workout in, and then once the workout's done, then I walk the dogs, and then I start getting dinner ready. So, so I'm usually, let's say, from 11 to 3. I'm doing either freelance work or I'm drawing uh, based off of what happened in Arrow or Flash or Supergirl, um, and then at 3 o'clock I kind of start dealing with things. Gets home and we have dinner, and we're settling into the evening. Then I'll maybe hop on the couch and grab my iPad and start back drawing again or working on whatever, pick up where I left off at 3 o'clock,
Mm-hmm.
and then we usually go to bed around like midnight or so, and just get up and do it over again.
Now, do you use anything to help you keep track of time?
Um, Not exactly. Like just I'm always kind of checking my watch out, or uh, when I'm on the computer on the iPad, I'm always glancing at what the time is, and the dosage of the medicine usually is something that I've got to keep track of. So
Mm-hmm.
if I'm not paying attention, that can get away from me. So I'm always kind of just watching the clock.
Gotcha. What's one piece of advice that you can give to somebody that's trying to do what you're doing, being an independent creator, making a living as an artist?
Piece of advice. Pretty much what we said. I think one of the main things is making sure that the experience that someone has working with you is a positive one, and one that they would want to come back to multiple times,
Mm-hmm.
and if not, and also refer you to someone else that they know that might need work. That's it. That's another thing is, you generally they travel in circles of other art directors or clients that sometimes they'll need stuff, and if they like you enough and they just enjoy working with you, then they really have no problem referring you to other people that could use your skills.
Mm-hmm.
So like skills, drawing and illustration and everything, that's always going to be a very important aspect, but also being a positive work experience is equal to your skill set.
Cool. I'm curious. You mentioned that you're the one that cooks dinner. What kind of food do you usually cook?
It's usually a balance. I've got go-to things, like I make like tacos, and I've done stuff from like chicken soup to tacos to some Filipino food. Not a lot, just some. My wife doesn't eat too many Filipino food, so she's got some
really?
go-tos that I'll make. Like adobo and sinigang.
Oh, sinigang is my favorite. I
That's
think Alex's favorite too, right, Alex?
Oh yeah, Sunigang.
that's the rainy day, right? That's the rainy day. Oh, it's like it's cloudy, it's cold. You just want something warm. Like my wife loves she's like a tangy. Her palate's very likes to veer towards the tangy and the tart,
they're
and
perfect.
so she likes her adobo like she likes her sinigang super tart, and I'm just like, oh man, you're killing me. But I'll make it for her, but I just don't add as much sauce to my rice as she would. But yeah, and then I'll make things like I've got an air fryer, and I air fry like crazy, like chicken and I make pizza in it. And, that's my indispensable go-to tool in the kitchen nowadays is the air fryer, just because it's less mess. There's no things don't come out greasy and if you want something that's nice and crispy, it tends to do that without soaking it in a lot of oil or anything like that. So
Mm-hmm.
we've had a few potluck. It's the holidays, so we've been invited to a few potluck dinners, and I've actually like we brought our air fryer up from to the Bay Area for Thanksgiving just because I was like, we've got this rub from this barbecue place in Austin that that's like I just take some chicken wings, like toss it in some olive oil, and I just sprinkle this rub on it, and it's oh my god, it's amazing. My wife's like, I've made it several times over the past few weeks, and I made it just last night for a holiday party with some family, with some friends, and she was like, "Can you make it again this week?" I was like, "You're not tired of it?" And she's one to not eat too many things too often because she's like she doesn't want to be repetitive in things. But she's like, "Can you make that again?" So I was like, "Oh yeah, you got it."
Nice. Um, you know, going to cons the last few years, and interviewing a lot of creators, especially in the pop culture world, in terms of representation. For some reason, I've noticed that being Filipino-American is much more than just the food that we eat, right?
Mm-hmm.
I mean, what does that mean to you, and being a Filipino-American, like an artist and creator?
Well, there growing up there was like a handful, or actually, yeah, like when I was in art school and everything, the only two Filipino artists that I knew that really stood out to me was Danny Bolanati and who I got to meet because I think it was Danny that I was able to meet because I think he lived in Daly City uh, back in the day, and Willis Portacio, you know.
Mm-hmm.
So those were at least the two that were well known. Um, so the fact that there were only two, is just kind of it was very obvious, and so the rarity of it was something that just kind of like, oh wow, there's got to be more. But now it feels like I think it's also because of technology, because of the internet and social media that we're able to be much more we aware of other people because of their presence on the internet and our ability to have the ready access to find their work. I think that's definitely changed the landscape of things because you're no longer like, but back in the day, if you were an artist in the Philippines, you know you would have been, it's a lot harder before the internet to be like, oh, how else are people going to see your artwork if
Mm-hmm.
you weren't, if you weren't hired for something, or I feel like the internet has made it very possible for people who aren't maybe necessarily working professionally to still have their work shared with you know thousands of people because they've got a social media presence. I feel like that's my case. Like, I always wanted to get into comic books, and when I was in art school and the comic books were starting to become a major industry. Like, there was still no exact comic book courses. Nothing defined or anything like that. So I ended up becoming an illustration major because that was the next thing that I felt was, I could learn the skills that I needed to be a comic book illustrator, even though it might not necessarily have been what the same exact course or lessons that I would need. So, so I, long story short, I'm not exactly a comic book illustrator, but what I draw are comic book influenced subject matter and illustrations. So honestly, I don't know if it weren't for social media, I don't know who would really see my artwork. Because
Mm-hmm.
I'm not really being published anywhere. So that's the thing, and being Filipino, I feel like there's a lot of Filipino artists out there that I'm much more aware of now because of conventions and shows that I don't think I would have known back before.
Yeah, that is so true because I don't know if you know who Alex Nino is.
Yes, yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I had no idea who he was until recently, and
Um,
people of his generation, there's a lot of Filipino artists that I don't even know about,
mm,
and so I mean that's I guess what I'm leading up to is that plus seeing how there's so much Filipino-American talent out there, kind of led me and Alex to sort of create or try to create something. We're in the middle of putting it together. It's going to be called Phil-Am Creator Con.
mm.
So it's going to be a one-day event next year in September, September 19th to be exact. So it's going to be small at a local library here in San Diego, but it's sort of something that we want to do to sort of highlight, Filipino-American talent.
Oh, that's awesome.
Yeah, and of course, it's an open invitation to you to participate if you would like to.
Oh yeah, that of course that would be amazing. You know, it's definitely something that I don't think happens too often. At least
Hmm.
this would be a first for me to be a part of something like that, where it's film talent that's being brought together.
Now, I'm curious: were your parents supportive of your creative career?
Yeah. How it is with
Sure, sure. But I was just wondering if maybe your family was different, but I guess not.
they might not have been all that gung ho about it in the beginning. Uh, Even I wasn't. I didn't know I wanted to be an artist. I knew I had a talent for it, and that it probably came easier to me than anything else that I would do. But when I started going to college, and I was unaware of it, or I wasn't even thinking of it being something that I would do as a profession. So I initially started at the University of San Francisco. I enrolled there, and it just happened that as during the orientation, I believe we're walking around. At the time, the Academy of Art College. I think now it's the Academy of Art University, but at the time it was the Academy of Art College. They had a co-op program with USF. So what would happen is you would be a student of both schools. And so if you were to graduate from the program, you would have a bachelor's of fine arts and illustration, but you would also have I guess a degree, or you're like you would have courses that were accredited, because the Academy of Art, they were an art school, but their courses like philosophy and other things like that, those weren't like accredited university level courses. So you wouldn't, if you were part of this program, you would have a little bit or the best of both worlds. You would have both accreditation and also a bachelor's, a BFA in illustration or whatever
Oh,
art
nice.
courses. So I was like, oh, hey, I can do that. And I didn't go there because of this program. I just was just like, I was already going to the school. I was just, at the time, I didn't know what I was going to do. And which is a natural thing, I think, for most people that age. It's like, you're just out of high school, and sometimes there are people that know exactly what it is they want to do, and there's some that are just kind of still trying to figure it out. So
I hear you. It took me 6 years to find graphic design.
right, and
Yeah.
well, that was the thing, is when I started going to the Academy of Art, or I decided to join, be a part of the co-op program, I knew my parents were going to be like, what you want to go to the Academy? What do you want to do with the Academy? So the safe the part of, or like I was like, well, what can I do? What can I do? And so I chose advertising design because I was like, okay, my parents, they're gonna at least be, a little bit relieved that this is actual. They're aware of advertising and they know that that's a field where you can be employed, and you wouldn't have to worry about being starving or anything like that.
Mm.
So I initially enrolled in that program, but then when I signed up, I thought, oh, I'm going to be the guy creating the illustrations that are used in ads, or like in Mad Men when they
Oh, I
had
see.
they would pitch and then someone drew something. I thought that's what I would be doing, but that was not the case. Like I think in the academy, when you're starting in your major, you have things called foundations, which is kind of like the fundamentals of what you're going to do. So it's very basic stuff. And I think, for the most part, I was like learning things. I was like, okay, I get it. This is something, whatever. And then I think it was typography was the class and this was before the computer. So this was like,
Mm.
you're like, I don't know. It was like all hands on type stuff. And it was, I'm sorry,
So
for
it's,
me,
you're probably still using like RubyLith and all that stuff.
yeah. It was, this was the very first course, and like so, I didn't. It was even more basic than that, but it was like it's picas and everything like
Oh
that, and
yeah.
it was like one of those courses that I was phoning in like in the worst possible way, and so I was like, if advertising is like this, then I'm not going to survive. So around that same time, I was in one of the academy coffee shops, and then I saw someone painting or sketching something, and I was like, and I was like so fascinated by it. I asked them like, what's your major? Like what is it are you studying for? Or and then they said illustration, and I'm like, that's a major? That's Are you serious? And so like yeah, and so I made the decision to switch out of advertising and move to illustration. And let me tell you,
Hmm.
that was a long. My parents are real estate agents. That's what they felt. They had their own real estate office. They were brokers. They actually managed other realtors, and so um, you know they. My mom was she's the tough one. She was the one that she was the keeper of the gate. So if I wanted to move forward, she was the one I had to kind of idea or get past or get her to understand. And
Right.
that was a good 3 hours in her office one day of just like and ultimately she was just like, all right, she despite her concerns and her worries and everything, she let me move forward with pursuing that, and ultimately I graduated and became an illustrator. But the funny thing was that I have a younger brother who's about 4 years younger than me, and he became an illustrator too. And I think but you know
You
what,
made it easier. You both.
guess who paved the way? Guess who made things much right? Like
That's
he
right.
didn't have a 3 hour conversation with
Exactly.
her in her office, just me. So he's welcome.
Nice.
But I'd like to add real quick that my parents are actually both artistic, which is you can't really blame me now. It's in the genes. My dad draws amazing like head portraits, and my mom likes to watercolor. Like she likes drawing like still lifes. She likes drawing. She's her favorite subject matter are like flowers and shoes, and she takes her illustrations and she makes them in her own stationery when she writes cards and everything. So in a way, they can't really blame me. That was kind of like
Right.
that
Exactly.
was things were put into motion way before I came into the picture. So
There you go. Now, when the you said you started advertising and design before computers. Now, when computers came around, was it easy for you to sort of get acclimated to the software and the hardware?
well, so when I was at the Academy of Art, like they were just developing, they were just building their digital illustration. department. They were Photoshop was just being a thing, or it was just really kind of taken off, and Illustrator. And
Do you remember what version of Photoshop you learned on?
no, no, I can't even. It's like oh my gosh, it's like I think this is the beginning, man. This was like around I like 96, 97. So
Okay, then that would have been about Photoshop 4, because that's when I went to
yeah,
design school.
okay,
Was in
dude, zip
96.
drives.
Yeah.
Remember zip drives? Everyone had the zip disks and everything. That was I was a traditional illustration major again, and I wanted to get into comic books, and so I really focused all my energies into becoming like a good penciler. That was what I wanted to become, was a penciler. So not so much. I learned how to ink just because I thought it's a good skill set to have. But in terms of coloring and everything, I really had, and I had difficulties even in art school with painting. I always felt that I went to school with a lot of amazing that just did artwork that wasn't like comic books is a very assembly line type, or at least in the beginning, back in the day, it was a very assembly line type process where pencilers handed off their artwork to get inked, and then after there it was colored. So a lot of my focus was on being a really good penciler, and so I found those other courses like painting and coloring were a lot more challenging for me, just because I would spend hours upon hours penciling an illustration, and then when it came to inking and painting over it, I was like very tentative, and I was very apprehensive about, because if I messed up, then I was like, oh my god, I gotta draw this all over again, so I really had a very difficult time doing that. And so going to art school, none of this really kicked in. By the time digital illustration program was getting up and running, I was already graduating out of the academy. So I didn't really get a chance to kind of learn anything like that. So I ended up graduating, and then I was director of after school. I work with kids, so I was the director of after school program, and and then I eventually met my now wife. It was her goal to move to Southern California and kind of try to get into the entertainment industry. So when she moved, I followed, and when I was in Southern California, I realized very quickly that if I were to get any type of work as an artist, I had to learn the computer. So the first job I got to LA was color separation for T-shirts in El Monte, South El Monte, and so that I got the job. It was a very kind of not exactly illustration, at least not in the beginning, because I was just learning all these new programs. I was learning Photoshop, I was learning Illustrator, I was learning how it goes. But what's amazing, I feel, about that kind of course in my life was that I was learning all these skills that pertain directly to what I wanted to do. So I wasn't learning a lot of. I was like, if I wanted, like, in art school, you kind of learn the basics, and this is how you make a circle, and this is how you kind of learn that. When you're kind of on the job, and you're working or you're learning in the field, you have to just jump almost like straight into what it is. You don't have the time to kind of experiment, and you just have to get in there, and you have to be able to do what your boss needs by the end of the day.
I can imagine being in the t-shirt biz. You definitely got a crash course in Illustrator and sort of revectorizing stuff, right?
Oh yeah, that was the thing. Is like back then, you had artwork. If you for anyone who's unfamiliar with like screen printing for t-shirts. Most machines it's a thing where like you separate a shirt into, if you were to do a shirt with the American flag, then you would have a screen, where it's red, and then there's a screen that's blue, and then there's a screen that's white. So you have to take an image like a flag, and you have to break it down into its components. But it's a little more complicated. You have to break that down into different colors. And most machines that do silk screening, I think at the time, the place that I was working at, their max number of screens that they had on their machines, like nine or eight. So I would have to take a rather complex image if it was done in Photoshop, and if it wasn't done in Illustrator or Vector, color pick certain colors, and you had to simplify almost in a way a complex design into a 9-color machine that could print out everything. Now, by the time I was getting out of doing t-shirt design, they had started creating programs that you just dropped an illustration into, and it would separate it for you. Like it was automated. The separation was automated. So, man, that would have made my life so much easier. But but what I liked about Illustrator and vector artwork was that it was so much easier, because it was it's a much more controlled program, and you can spot color the different colors that were being used in the illustration, and it had so much more control. So ultimately, when I started doing artwork for myself, I would veer more towards Vector and Adobe Illustrator, because it had the control that I really was looking for.
Plus the beauty of vector art is that it's scalable to whatever size you want without any loss of quality.
Yeah. That was one of the things and the file sizes were incredibly small, and it wouldn't, this was back in the day, like you tried to work in Photoshop, and if your file was like 29 megs, forget about it. Your computer was gonna.
I used to work at a trade show marketing company, and sometimes our files would be between 1 to 2 gigs.
Oh my god! And so like the machines you would just be sitting there, like you do something, and most of the time you're just waiting for the computer to process it, and
go take a 2-hour lunch.
Because that stroke you did, come back in about half an hour, and it'll show up. So so that was the thing is, I think what happened was I had started doing t-shirt design, and they started giving me as I became more and more comfortable with the programs, the people that I was doing the color separation for, they saw that I was an illustrator, so they started giving me some work where I was actually doing the illustrations that, and then because a lot of, like in the garment industry, you've got designs that the clients give you to color separate, but then a lot of these silk screeners, they also had their own boutiques, or they had deals with boutiques in the garment district, that they would sell clothing there with their own designs. So I would be given the opportunity to design some of those clothing. So that's how I started learning the computer, and I was very fortunate that every job I had after that, after the first one, I would be working with another designer who just would impart so much knowledge to me that my skills were growing really fast, and to the point where I think I was home one night and I was drawing, I think it was a Wolverine drawing, and I'm like, you know what if I drew this and in the computer, using all the skills, all the things that I was learning from like all these different designers, and that's how I started really doing a lot of the fan art. I was just applying things that I was learning during my day to the stuff that I was doing at night at home when I had the time to kind of play, and yeah, that's how it all started.
Wow, that's cool, man. Cool. I guess we'll take a little bit of a break and we'll do a thunder round, which is our sort of off the beaten path set of questions. Why don't you take it away, Alex?
All right. Okay. First question. What color best describes you?
Me?
Yeah.
Green. I would say I tend to gravitate towards the color green.
Mm-hmm.
So, and on the CW, you'd be the arrow.
Apparently, yeah, I guess so. I never, and I wasn't even. It's funny because, um, whenever like my wife, when we go out to the mall, and I always bring my drawing stuff just because I like to. If she's taking her time or she's shopping, that always helps me kind of pass the time and everything. Is I'll just sit somewhere and I'll start drawing. But if she's taking way too long and I start to get a little kind of like, what's going on? I want to go. I'm getting hungry. I start drawing the Hulk. I start drawing the Hulk.
Oh,
It's
wow,
funny. Like
okay.
whenever you see the Hulk in my sketchbook, it's like I must be upset about something because that's when I say,
You're not angry. You're hangry.
yes, yes.
So every time we see a whole illustration, we know you're out shopping with your wife, right?
The chances are very high that that's when that drawing was done.
Cool. All right.
Hey, I remember. I used to do art drops before, right?
I still do when I get a chance to. It's like
Okay.
art drops are tricky because where you're doing it, if and just making sure that you don't look like too suspicious looking because that's I'm trying to I'm trying to be very discreet when I do it and not be very obvious, but at the same time you can, if you see someone just kind of like like scanning some place and kind of looking over their shoulder, that can look a little a little suspicious. So it's where you're doing it. That's why I tend to like to do them at malls and everything like that, just because there's just a lot of activity going around, so it's easy to kind of just not stick out, and and it's also because there's a lot of more ample hiding. Like, and wherever I hide an illustration is I try to kind of have maybe some relevance to what the artwork is that's being hidden. So if, like, let's say I drew a Ninja Turtle, then I think I hit a Ninja Turtle sketch one time in a book of pizza, so I try to be a little bit more creative about where my hiding place is, but at the same time doing that means that I'm just like, sometimes the hiding place isn't very optimal, or it's like I tried to, there was one time I went to Disneyland and I was thinking, should I do an art drop? And like, I feel like Disneyland's not, it's like, well, one, it's Disney, and so you don't know what their feelings are gonna be like. But the other one is like, yeah, you don't want to be the sneaky guy going, where do I, like, you're in this place full of kids and you're just like trying to find this spot to like put a drawing and not look suspicious or anything like that. So I like places like the malls, or like I'll do, like, if we're going to a restaurant and it's like a Main Street type area, I'll try to do that. But I also want them to be found. So it's like, you can't necessarily, you want to make sure that people are going to find it, and you're not kind of just leaving it somewhere where like no one's going to find it, because that kind of is also counterproductive.
Next question. If you could recommend a book or movie to your 15-year-old self, what would it be, and why did you choose that book or movie?
Well, it's interesting because my 15-year-old stuff, like what I would recommend, actually doesn't come out when I'm 15, but I would say keep an eye out for it when it does come out, would be the Batman animated series, because up until that point, when that series came out, I was very much a Jim Lee fan, but at the same time, it was interesting because Jim is because he's a penciler, his stuff is over. He super renders everything because he isn't going to be coloring, or he isn't going to be, his part is the penciling. So that's why Jim would like kind of had the cross hatching and everything like that, because that was his way of being able to define form and shape in his drawings. But so I tried to emulate that kind of over like this, the cross hatching and everything. And for me, when I did it to my stuff, it just didn't come out right, and it just looked like I was trying to mimic Jim Lee and not really being anything kind of authentic or original to my own style. And so when the Batman animated series came out, I was like mind blowing, because it was so simple. It was so like I grew up with like Transformers and Thundercats and GI Joe, and when you look at those cartoons, it's because they're all like super muscly and super detailed. When you go back and you watch them, the animation, it's a little rough. It's like trying to go back home again. Some, like, outside of like the intro animation, which was always amazing, and it just was like mind blowing. The actual animation of the episodes were, some shows had really good. That's a little that, and it's because of all the detail that they had going on, and so you look at the Batman animated series and that style that Bruce Timm, came up with, which was it was very like cartoony and very stylized. But to me, it amazed me how that animation showed so much motion and so much gesture and action with such simple drawing style, so that to me was like, oh wow, that's it was like, but at that time, you're thinking, oh, that's animation, will that translate into comic books, and so that was, for me, that what's been my kind of journey, in a way that I was still kind of drawing the really detailed type stuff, where I would find myself drawing that, but then I would see Batman, the more animated series, because once Batman came out and became a hit, then like that style became to be a little bit more prevalent in animated series, where it was more stylized and less like very like detailed line work or anything like that. So to me,
It definitely influenced the whole DC animation.
oh yeah, right. And so that was the thing, and I think, or that's the thing I would tell my 15-year-old self, is like, not everything has to be like it can be cartoony. I think that was the thing that really pushed me towards the more cartoony style of drawing and everything, was that because I just enjoy the exaggeration of things, and not not being beholden to realistic proportions and everything like that. I felt like I could definitely be more expressive when I played around with the body shapes and everything.
Mm-hmm.
Cool. Nice to know. Oh, okay. We skipped this question last time we had you on, so here it goes. If a movie was made about your life, what kind of music would be on the soundtrack?
Oh, lo-fi kind of. I guess that's the music I like to draw to.
Oh, me too.
Yeah, it's nice and it's chill, but it's got like that just beat to it, or and I just it reminds me of prior to like discovering lo-fi music, I would always draw to soundtracks, movie soundtracks. It just was easier because it was less distracting than music that had lyrics or anything like that, because you just kind of get swept away by what you're listening to, and with soundtracks, especially if there were to movies that you're a fan of, then then you can just kind of relive certain moments of the movie, but like the thing with soundtracks,
any soundtracks that stand out to you?
See, that's the thing, is the thing with soundtracks is, of like a 20-track soundtrack, there's maybe like 2 or 3 that are just drawable, where everything, sometimes the other parts are just like, it's just very dramatic, and it's very kind of like it's not kind of melodic or anything like that.
Okay,
It's
got
very
you.
it's
Got you.
very
Yeah.
very very operatic, or it's very action, and so that stuff's kind of hard to draw to. So I liked I have a playlist, and I like drawing to stuff like the very first soundtrack I think that really just was like, this is great drawing music, is based off is the soundtrack to The Mission. Um,
Oh, Robert De Niro.
yes, the
Okay, cool.
Ennio Morricone, I think. Yeah, I don't know if I'm pronouncing that correctly, but that music was. I remember I was in art school. My best friend and I, like, we would just spend, like, hours in the dorm, in his dorm room. He would be at his desk working. I'd be like sitting on like the edge of the bed, just we were working on our own things. Didn't really talk to each other. We had that soundtrack we'd be playing, and it's like just rainy. It was one of those super rainy seasons in the Bay Area, And so
I'll have
it's
to
just,
check it out.
yeah, it's great. It's very you've heard the music. You've definitely heard the music. But it's just very just peaceful and relaxing. I like the Bruce Lee story. That soundtrack was very,
hmm
inspiring. Or just like there's parts of their tracks of that soundtrack that are just like, oh, like that one. Like even the actiony ones tracks are actually kind of fun to draw to. But just the ones with the very sweeping scores and everything like that, very kind of dramatic thing. But yeah, like lo-fi is the next step, where it's just kind of like, it's a little more contemporary, but at the same time it's not as
Right.
distracting.
Yeah.
Spotify has a lot of lo-fi playlists.
Yeah, I actually listen to the YouTube ones.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
Like those are, I'll just, especially when I'm on the computer, I just can kind of pull YouTube and just have it playing and just like really not, and they've got, and a lot of them on YouTube have these really cool, just chill animations of like anime inspired.
Oh,
Have
yeah.
you seen them? You should
I think
check
so.
them
Like
out.
sometimes they put a lot of Samurai Champloo stuff on there.
Some, yeah, some, and then there's one where it's like, it's just people. It's like an animation of this girl studying or something,
Oh,
or
yeah.
like these,
Yeah.
these characters. Yeah, like, and they've got some fun illustrations. So like, yeah, that's what usually I play if I'm drawing on my computer.
Nice.
Cool. Nice. All right. If you were president of the United States, what artwork would you put on? Would you hang on at Oval Office?
Oh, let's see, like, what's his face? Eric Canetti. We'll put some Eric Canetti up.
Oh, nice.
What's his name? I don't want to get it wrong. He's Korean. He's the one that draws those. He like doesn't even do an underdrawing. He
Yeah.
just
Oh,
Kim
Kim
Jong-ji. Kim Jong-ji.
yeah.
yeah.
Oh
Yeah.
man, I would actually just have him, ask him to draw it like right then and there, and I just sit there and just watch him just do this masterpiece on like the wall. And his work is like inspiring and amazing and intimidating all at the same time. You just like,
it just blows your mind.
yeah, you just want to give up. It's like, I'm just gonna put my pencil down and never pick it back up. You got to fight the urge to just like why? What's the point? Like when this guy can like draw, like he just whips out. Like my biggest issue is perspective, and again, the way that he just can just draw things, these amazing like vehicles and the interiors of these vehicles and the parts of the engines of this vehicle in perspective, out of his head. It's like, it's just, that guy's like not of this earth.
I know.
I know. This last San Diego Comic Con, I was able to attend one of his panels, and it was it's just how simply he thinks about what he's drawing, but it comes out so amazing.
Yeah, and it's like
Yeah.
no effort. It's like, I don't know, he sneezes and this thing is all of a sudden on the paper, and it's just like, it would have taken me like a year and a half to draw or something.
Yeah, that guy's amazing. All right, let's see. Next question: if you could teleport to anywhere in the world right now, where would you go and why you picked that place?
Japan.
Japan.
Yeah, and toys, and books,
Toys.
and art supplies. That's it.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's
Wow.
the one place like we want to travel to. Like we've done a little traveling the past few years, for some conventions. We've been able to go to London a couple of times, and after we do the show in London, we always try to go somewhere else for a break, And so our first trip to London, we followed it up with a trip to Paris, and then our second trip to London, we followed it up with a trip to Barcelona. And all these times that we travel, usually my wife's like, "Oh, can I do some shopping?" Or like she'll buy another bag because to bring back stuff that she wanted to get from there. So we're like, okay, like Japan's the place that I'm like, I'm gonna buy another bag to lug everything, get there. I would just stock up, And so yeah,
Uh-huh.
that's the one place I would right now if I could teleport right now, that would be it.
So you haven't been there yet.
No, not yet, not yet.
Uh,
Hopefully soon. Hopefully soon.
Cool. All right. Star Wars: The Rise of Skywalker is coming out soon. What Jedi or Sith would you want to be a Padawan or apprentice to?
I would say Ahsoka. I would be Ahsoka's Padawan, just because she's kind of like she dealt with the nonsense of the Jedi Order in terms of like just the whole reason why Anakin became Vader, like she walked
mhm.
away, but like she still kind of stuck with it, Um, yeah, I'm like I see those movies, or I see the prequels, and I'm like, no wonder Anakin turned into Vader. You see like how they talk to him all the time. I was like, they kept like slapping him down. I'm like, no wonder he turned into Vader. He's like screw you guys, especially like Obi-Wan. I was like, come on, like give the guy a little respect, It's like everything was like, you know, he turned young Padawan into like a derogatory term of endearment, where he was like everything was like, everything was like you need patience, young Padawan, and it was like wow, that was like like every time you want to put him in his place, and so I was just kind of like it just never made sense, the Jedi Order is like it felt like they were destined to kind of like end up where they ended up just because of how they treat each other and whatever, or like the Padawans, it felt like no wonder they would turn on them.
Mm.
Yeah, like ever since I got the Disney Plus, I got to catch up on Star Wars Rebels.
Oh yeah,
and I have to say that I think Rebels might be the best Star Wars storyline ever
I'm
created.
still working my way through I think the third season, so
Hmm.
but I thought it was like so cool that they brought Ahsoka back, and it was
Right.
just so badass that like she had the white lightsabers, and
I know.
but yeah, that one definitely like I like Clone Wars. I like aspects of the Clone War, but they had their throwaway episodes where they got all political and things, which like lost me. So
Hmm.
like so I felt like Rebels was a very more streamlined. It got to do a good, tighter, more intimate stories because they didn't have to span too many characters.
Right.
Yeah. All right. Cool. All right. Last question. What's one thing your fans would be surprised to learn about you?
Oh, something that they'd be surprised to learn about. Uh, I don't know. I feel like I'm a pretty open book about like or I feel like my artwork kind of reflects who I am in terms of my interests and my sense of humor and um, most things about just my personality. Yeah, I don't know. I don't know what.
What about that you have your real estate license? I'm just joking.
That's in my parents' dreams. That's Let me think. Yeah, no, I don't think any secrets or anything that I would consider surprising for anyone to know about me. Yeah. Like
How about on pizza? Do you like pineapples on your pizza?
yes,
Yes. All right.
yes. I am. I don't know. I mean, like I know that like it revolts some people, but it's like I like that savory sweet
The
Oh,
salty.
combination.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah, and
I like it
so
too.
okay, that's it. I
Okay.
like
that's it.
Hawaiian
Cool.
You
pizza.
like
I think I
All
lost
right.
like about like 5,000 people on Instagram right now.
That'll be our headline for the social media post.
My East Coast contingency of fans just was like, drop this fool.
Cool. Like, going back to your, when I asked you what your day was like, my next question is, what are you reading, watching, or listening to right now? I mean, do you have time to like, besides Crisis on Infinite Earth, because I know that you're looking at your Instagram, you've been keeping up on it. I mean, do you have time to watch or read or listen to anything right now?
Well, listen, like when I walk the dogs, I was listening to different podcasts.
Okay, cool. What kind of podcast do you listen to?
Ooh, I listened to the Collider Heroes podcast.
Hmm.
I listened to Gary V.
Oh yeah, he's awesome.
Yeah, being especially working for yourself and trying to, uh, I, as appreciative as I am, people buying my artwork. I know that you've got to, as an artist, you got to really kind of figure out other ways to um, turn your skills or create product um, from your skills that people can use. Artwork's great and it's great to put up on the wall, but at a certain point, there's only so many illustrations a person can own before you're like, I don't have any more wall space, or I don't know where I'm going to put this. So the next stage for I feel an artist would be is to kind of create functional art or something, put your artwork on something that someone can use that they're not necessarily just putting on the wall and walking away from.
Hmm.
So Gary Vee is a great inspiration to kind of just like be like, you know, think outside the box when it comes to what it is you want to do and how you want to define your future. So Gary Vee, um, uh, I've just started watching The Office. Not just, but I've been kind of working through the, the Office because I know it's one show that I'm a big, huge fan of Friends, and so I've watched Friends so many times, and I know that people have always recommended watching The Office to me. So that's one show that I've been kind of working through, and I came across the podcasts of Jenna Fisher and is it Angela, the actress who plays Angela? I can't remember. Podcast, The Office Ladies, where they kind of retrospectively go through certain episodes and kind of share their behind the scenes factoids and anecdotes from different episodes from the 9 seasons. So that one's a pretty fun one to just kind of listen to, especially the actress who plays Angela, because she's such one way on, she portrayed her character so well on the screen that like that's how I feel like about anyone who kind of plays a villain or something, especially people play villains. Like I always look them up because I want to know if that person really like that in real life. Is that person that like just terrible in real life? And then it's so funny to see them when they're being interviewed and just being so likable, and so you're just like, oh, I totally hang out with that person. That just to me, that's like the trademark of a really good actors. Like it's heroes. Heroes. I feel is like not as difficult to be the hero because you just have to be very likable and whatnot. But when you're acting to be a villain, and you're acting, and your goal is to be someone very dislikable and just terrible and evil, and then so like to me, I'm always curious. Like I want to see like behind the scenes or like interviews. Like what's this person in real life? And they're like, you just it just makes you curious, and then you're just like, wow, that person did a real good job of being a complete dick, or and whatnot. So
There's a podcast that I just recently started listening to. Do you know who Michael Rosenbaum is?
Oh yeah, inside
Yeah, inside of you.
inside you
Yeah, inside of
with
you.
Michael
Yeah, yeah,
Rosenbaum.
it's pretty good.
Inside of
Yeah,
you.
yeah, inside of you. It's pretty good.
Yeah, yeah, he gets real deep into his interviews with people.
Hmm.
Like that's another fun one to listen to. You ever listen to Mortified?
No, no. I'll have to check that one out.
It's a podcast. Well, it's what it is it's just people reading their high school diaries or journals. So like it's like someone, and it's like listening to someone talk about like their boyfriend or whatever, but it's like when you're like a 40 something year old or a 30 something year old and they got to read what they wrote when they were 16 or 12 or sometimes even younger. It's some of the most hilarious thing. Like one that was super hilarious was this woman she was I think 15 at the time when she was writing, and she wanted to write some like Judy Blume kind of novel, but it was like one of those kind of like I don't want to say erotic, but like just something where it was like she was writing about what like she thought sex was without having sex. So she was like, her story was hilarious because she was getting all things wrong. Like she didn't know what she hadn't had sex ed yet or anything like that. So like the things she was describing weren't even like anatomically possible. But it was hilarious to just like, and it's funny is that the people who wrote it are the people reading it, so they're like cracking up as they're reading because some of them haven't even seen the stuff that they've written in years or whatever. So it just and like I know that in different cities throughout the US they'll have Mortified shows where you can actually go and like it's like a stage and someone comes up and they have their diary with them and they just read like different excerpts from their diaries, and it's just great. I definitely recommend checking it out.
Did you keep a diary when you were younger?
No.
No.
I had a sketchbook,
Oh, okay.
but I didn't have a diary. I don't think I thought I was that interesting. Or I didn't think I had anything interesting to tell myself. I'm like, why am I writing to myself? I was there.
Right. Cool. Anything else that you've been reading, watching, or listening to?
Watching Mandalorian.
Right.
That show is amazing, and it's definitely got my attention, and I just love the characterization, and the actors that they're pulling into it have been like so good.
Yeah, I was impressed actually with the last one. I don't. Is everybody caught up? Alex, did you watch episode 6?
Yeah.
No, go ahead and talk about it. I'm cool with it.
No, well, it's just there's a comedian that's on there, Bill Burr. I was impressed by his performance.
Yeah, right. He's so very him, right?
Yeah.
You've seen him in interviews, you've seen his stand up. So he is like you see him in the show and like the face, but like the character, he's in the character, and like you're not taken out of it. He's not, aspects of his comedian self aren't in this portrayal, and so he did really.
They're not overpowering.
No, and it's like he played a good dick, and he was just kind of like,
Yeah.
and it was, oh man, like the stormtrooper line was like hilarious, like you're like, I like that reference,
yeah.
when it's said and everything. so yes, the Mandalorian. Well, right now, because it's the holiday season, I've been watching a lot of baking shows, baking competition shows on Food Network, on Hulu, and everything like that. Because I cook.
You could add some dessert for.
I don't bake myself, but I like watching people. I mean, to me, that's as interesting as watching someone draw. Is watching someone cook and bake and do all, and like be creative like the way they do, and create things. Like, to me, it always amazes me that when they're like, you have to make this, and they're like, okay, I'm like, where's my phone? I can pull up a recipe because I don't, I don't have that like file of recipes or whatever that you can just pull up. But to me, I always told people that if I wasn't, I'd probably be cooking, or I would have like, and not like a chef. I would never want to be a chef because I think that's more pressure than I could handle. But I would love like a driver's dining and drivers. How is it? Drive-ins, diners. That was I'm more of that kind of.
Gotcha.
Yeah, or it's like or a lunch or a food truck. Something a little more kind of just fun and.
I think a food truck would be fun, man.
Kind of personal and not so, like one of my favorite movies, the John Favreau.
Oh, Chef.
Chef.
Yeah, that was a good one.
It's like,
I love that.
It's got like things of, like that's, I feel like my life is like, where he's going off doing his own thing, and about respecting what he does, like being proud of what he does and not giving people like anything less than what he thinks, is his best work, or, so that's one of my favorites. Like, and the food looks amazing in it. So, it's like best of everything that I like.
Yeah, Alex, what have you been reading, watching, or listening to?
Of course, Mandalorian, like everyone else, but I saw one episode of V Wars, so I'm looking forward. Yeah, it's pretty cool. I mean, it starts off as people getting infected from this pathogen or virus or whatever from they found in I think it was Antarctica, and it gets released and some people get infected and it goes from there. So, and shows this transformation on becoming a vampire, and that was just episode 1, so that's all I saw. I'm looking forward.
I actually finished the whole thing. It gets pretty good. And the reason why this show sort of stood out to me is because I attended a panel. I think it was earlier this year. I forgot which convention it was. It might have been WonderCon or San Diego Comic-Con. It was moderated by my friend Rob Zakowicz, but it had the creator of the person that wrote V Wars. It was a graphic novel, and so the panel was about sort of like comic book adaptations to either movie or television. So they were talking about V Wars on there, and when I saw this on Netflix, I was like, oh, cool. I mean, let me check it out. So it's kind of cool to see something that I heard on a panel, being created and actually seeing it now on Netflix. I thought that was pretty cool.
Oh, is there any ask you guys, is there any graphic novel that you would think would turn into a good series, like a Netflix series or something that hasn't been done yet?
Well, I don't know about graphic novel per se, but
or comic book.
we've been interviewing a lot of independent creators. I mean, that's our bread and butter, pretty much.
Mm-hmm. And
there's a whole slew of awesome comic books out there. I know that a lot of them already have their own development deals in the works, but I could see like David Pepose. He's the creator of Spencer and Locke. His log line or his tagline is what if Calvin and Hobbes grew up in Sin City?
Oh, so, yeah, I know that guy.
Yeah, so that's something that I can see on Netflix. And then Ryland Grant, he has a few comic books out there that are sort of, I mean, I can picture in the same vein as like 24, but with like supernatural or sci-fi elements in there. Zach Kaplan, he has a few comic books. One is called Eclipse, and the other one is called Port of Earth. Those really would be really good adaptations.
There's this one book that I came across on Comixology, but I can't remember. I just know the premise. I can't name the creator, which I feel terrible about. But the premise was it's like the zombies are like overtaking the earth, or they've grown, and so there's just a very small population of humans, and the humans are being protected by vampires because they're their only food,
Oh,
So
yeah.
it's like it's this symbiotic relationship that the humans and the vampires have in order to survive for each of them. That
Interesting.
and so they have to the vampires fight the zombies away, fight the zombies so that the humans can.
I'll have to look that one up. That
Yeah,
sounds pretty interesting.
I would love to see like some kind of Netflix series on that or something like that. So
Hmm.
so that was. But yeah, that one just kind of when you were talking about stuff that kind of popped in my head with the V Wars and everything.
Right.
But
Cool. Anything else, Alex?
No, I think that's the biggest one is V Wars, so I'm looking forward to.
Oh, since you were talking about food earlier, Lord,
mhm.
there's a show on Netflix called Midnight Diner. I don't know if you're
Oh
familiar with it.
yeah, yeah,
Yeah.
that's like kind
Have
of like chicken soup for the soul type
have
episodes.
you watched the second season?
Yeah.
Okay, cool.
We got to the what episode? We got to the one with I think the second or third episode. I think of that one.
Okay,
Yeah.
that's really good. I think there are a couple episodes in there where I kind of teared up a little bit.
Yeah. Right. Like
Yeah.
those are really good. Did you finish the second season?
I finished it. Yeah.
Oh, okay. I'm wondering if they're gonna delve into the owner's story anymore. Then I know they had like they touched on it in one episode of the first
Hmm.
season. So I'm wondering if they'll
Uh,
revisit his storyline.
maybe.
Maybe. Wink, wink. But yeah, that's a
Yeah,
good
he
one.
does look. He does look like he has a pretty interesting past.
Oh yeah. Okay.
I mean, just looking at him.
Oh yeah.
It's
He
like
looks like he could be like a mob boss or something like that.
yeah,
Like,
I know. Cool. Well, the next segment of the podcast is superhero shout-outs. And because we can't do the stuff that we do by ourselves, sometimes we need some help, right? So, who would you like to give a superhero shout-out to, Lord?
I would definitely give it out to my wife. Yeah, she's, especially because um, I work from home, and that definitely uh, um, pulls in money. But she, I would definitely say that she deals with a lot in her job, and some days are good, sometimes some days aren't, and you know, I'm definitely thankful for uh, the hard work and everything that she does to to allow me to be able to explore other ways to be an artist and to like travel and to do shows. Um, they're very thankful and grateful to her. Give her a shout out. I want to give a shout out to my boys, Toby Zidler and Lane Terasaki. Uh, they're like, if anyone's seen me at like New York Comic Con, those guys, they're the best. I met them years and years ago. I feel it was at a Wizard World LA when they used to have those, and they came by, and I think Lane had maybe bought some artwork, and then the other one was like, oh, you should check this guy's stuff out, and then they would just hang out and talk, and and we just became really good friends, and they're actually based in San Jose. And so whenever we would do shows, we would always connect, at either Comic Con or at WonderCon, and then eventually, like when we would, and the thing that was so great about them was like one of the more crazier things about doing conventions is when you're packing up and heading out, and setting up's easy because I can kind of do things like one by one. I could just wheel things over from the hotel to the artist alley and get set up. But when we're tearing down everything and leaving at the end of the show, that's a little more difficult because sometimes we don't have a hotel room to bring things back to. So we're like trying to lug all this stuff and bring them out of the hallway, and Lane and Toby would always hang around afterwards, and they would help us out, and they would, help bring things back to the hotel or to the valet with us, and then it got to the point where, they would even they came out to us with us or Toby came out to London with us, or they would come out to New York with us, and they were always helping us out. They would, you know, like, oh, if we needed coffee or if we needed something to eat, they would like how about, like, yeah, those guys, they made doing shows outside of California like so easy and so enjoyable, and they never asked for anything in return or anything like that. So I would say my wife, Toby, and Wayne, those are really the main people that I'm very appreciative for.
What cameos have been your favorite so far on Crisis?
I like the Smallville one. I like seeing Tom Welling. I would say I was a hardcore fan of Smallville, but I had watched the show.
I enjoyed it. I enjoyed it too. Yeah.
So I liked the twist that they had for him. I thought that was pretty cool. The Lucifer one was pretty. They did a good job of kind of like, no, I'm not in it, and so it got me going. I mean, I believed it. I was like, I'm not going to push it. I had done a drawing, because up until that point there was a lot of chatter of that he was on set or whatever. So I was like, hey, and that's all I do when I'm doing these drawings. I have no insight or no knowledge beforehand of what's happening. A lot of what I draw is just me, oh, what would be cool if this happened, or it's just my imagination running wild, So that he actually appeared was kind of it caught me off guard. I feel like that's hard. It's a hard thing to do, especially with all the location shooting that they do and all the kind of behind the scenes stuff that a lot of people have been able to capture and post online, so the fact that some things can surprise you is always really pleasant, and you're just kind of like, oh, props. I did not see that coming, I think that's a big thing.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm trying to think what else, oh, I was surprised that they got the Titans in there for those two quick shots of Jason Todd and Hawk,
Mm-hmm.
so it's always fun. It's like you gotta be real happy for the Berlanti crew and everything that that they're able to they built this incredible universe and this family of shows that they can interact, and they're so popular and they're so well received that
Mm-hmm.
stuff like this is able to be done and pulled off, and hence hats off to Mark Guggenheim and everyone there that I'm sure this was a crazy thing to pull off, getting all these people to take time out of their schedules to come in and just film. It's like, it must have been crazy, and to juggle all of it and to be like, okay, well, this has got to get done, it's like, man,
Mm-hmm.
they deserve their winter break, and then some.
Yeah, definitely.
So
I'm pretty stoked that they got Kevin Conroy to be Batman on there.
oh yeah, it's like he's the voice of Batman,
Mm-hmm.
he's hands down. So the fact that, and they did the Kingdom Come version of him as well, and it's
Mm-hmm.
just kind of
Mm-hmm.
like, wow, that's pretty good. Anytime you hear that voice, it's just kind of like, oh, child. Again, going back to the Batman animated series, it's just like,
Yep.
that's my jam.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, we're closing out this decade. I mean, what stood out to you professionally?
Professionally, I was really the having artwork pop up at Times Square was a very um, awesome opportunity that that came across our plate that when we were given the chance to do it, or like yeah, and then to be there in person when it went up was really fun to see, and then a few months later going back to New York for my first New York Comic Con was awesome, so that was very cool. And just I mean I've been I had been to San Diego Comic Con for 10 years, and so I was very used to that location and everything that went into that. But like being at the Javits was like, wow, that thing was massive. So just, and I didn't even go into the main hall. Like I was in the Artist Alley, which was in a different area of the convention center the whole time, So, but just, when I being there during the setup of it all was just kind of like, it was amazing, and then towards the end of the year, I was able to do the 100th episode gift for the Supergirl cast and crew. And like the past few, I did the Arrow one back in 2016, and then I did the Flash one last year, and doing the Supergirl one this year. It was, it's I've got like these cool lunch boxes now to kind of put on display. So yeah, like these the people behind all the CW shows are really, they've been really kind to me and very welcoming, and like I'm very grateful to them for welcoming me and inviting me to participate in so many aspects of their show.
Mm-hmm. So in 10 years' time, when we have another podcast together, well, hopefully we'll have a few more before that. But when I ask you the same question, what stood out to you this decade, which will be the next decade, what do you hope to accomplish by then?
I feel like I would love to. I've got some ideas of my own stories that I would love to kind of put out there, whether it's children's books or it's like an online webcomic or something like that. I would love to do that, and things that I think would make a really good animated series, So I'd like to kind of pursue those maybe and get those out there for people to see and see what comes about that. I think that's the main thing, because it's like there's always going to be shows, and there's always going to be pop culture events and movies and properties that I'll always probably will be drawing from. But the other thing is to kind of create something and put out there that's distinctly my own, and that would be the biggest thing I would like to accomplish within the next 10 years.
Cool. We look forward to those projects.
Thank you.
Did we miss anything? Would you like our audience to know anything else about you?
No. I feel like you had some really great questions, ones that I had no ready answer for. So I think we covered a lot of good ones, and hopefully the next time we talk, we can expand more on things that were said today.
Definitely. Where can people find you online?
You can find me on Instagram. My profile is Lord LORD _ Mesa MESA. On Twitter, I'm at Lord Mesa, and on Facebook, I have a Lord Mesa art page, and then you can go to lordmesa.com, where that's where my online store is. And usually when I have a sale, you'll see the announcement on all my social media, and then you can head straight to my webpage that has my goodies on it. And that's where you'll be able to purchase some of my artwork that you see when I post, the ones that I post on Instagram.
Mm-hmm. Cool. Lord, it's been awesome having you on, and it's always cool seeing you at conventions.
Oh, thank you guys. It's always a pleasure to see like familiar faces. It's like a family, like family reunions every time I go to a convention because it's always people you've seen but you don't see for a while, and so when you see them again, it's just kind of like, hey, there's that catching up and what you've been up to and everything. So thank you so much
Mhm.
for always, stop on the chat and just catch up and everything.
Cool. And please give our best to Marlena.
Will do.
Awesome. Alex, why don't you close out the show?
All right. Thanks so much for tuning into the Hall 8 Show podcast, where we love showcasing independent creators like Lord Mesa here. And if you believe in our mission to be the voice of independent creators, we love a rating, hopefully 5 stars, and a comment on Apple Podcasts or wherever you listen to podcasts. Also, please share our episode using the hashtag Hall 8 Show. Peace, cheers, and if you'd like to recommend a guest for our show, please reach out to us or any of our social media accounts or on our website, halh.com. Thanks very much.